Welcome back to Cocktails and Crankshafts. It's your boy, the Killer Bee. As I want to do occasionally on this channel, I'm going to today indulge in a little bit of personal preference and veer off onto a subject not related to cars. So you've heard me call myself the Fat Man. I am a portly fellow, robust, plus size. I like to eat, which is not to say that's entirely the reason I'm overweight, but that's a large part of it. In an earlier point in my life, I exercised a lot. I played a lot of basketball. I played softball. I played recreational soccer until I was a sophomore in high school. I wrestled 2 years in high school. In college, I was an ROTC, and I played a lot of recreational basketball. As a young adult, when I started my engineering career, I played a lot of softball and a little bit of pickup basketball until my knees started hurting. And my weight started to come up. The less basketball I played, the heavier I got, and then it was sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy there. But the point is, the one constant through all of these different body types and sizes that I've had over the course of my life is that I like to eat. And accordingly, I learned to cook at an early age. I'm 46 years old, so I've been cooking for 35, 36 years, literally. I was about 10 when my mother started teaching me sort of the ins and outs of the kitchen, little things like defrosting meat, and then browning ground beef, scrambling eggs, and she just a progression through the years to where by the time I was 15, I come from a two-parent family, 2 parents, 2 kids, and in the 80s, both of my parents, basically from like 1983 on, both of my parents had full-time careers. So I was the classic 80s latchkey kid kind of thing. Once I learned how to cook, and then a couple of years later, my sister learned how to cook, that became a big thing in our family because now mom could say, cook something for dinner to me or my sister, and the basic way the rule worked was we were a busy family. You had 2 kids that were active in school and scouting and sports, and 2 parents that had full-time careers and also played sports and organized leagues. So the basic rule was whoever got home first started dinner. And for a lot of reasons, and school-wise, that often was me. And I learned to cook by high school. I could cook a complete meal for a family of 4, no problem. And that's something that's stuck with me. I still cook to this day. And during this COVID lockdown, since I've been at home, obviously I've been cooking a lot. Early on, I was even scared to order food, Grubhub and Uber Eats and all those things. It was just because we didn't know how it spread, and I didn't know if food service workers could spread the disease through my food or whatever. And once that kind of got figured out, I got a little more open about ordering food or going out to get fast food. But for the most part, I've been cooking at home since March, and here we are. It's August now, and I've been cooking a lot. And especially, I can cook in the kitchen. I bake, scrambled eggs, fried bacon, sausage, breakfast potatoes, grits, oatmeal, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, fried fish, you name it, I can cook it. All of your basic sort of classic meal types, particularly in the American, your core American foods and sort of your southern, southeastern type cuisine. I can do almost all that stuff. Basically, I can do anything I've got a recipe for. I've mastered the fundamental techniques. I can fry, I can bake, I can braise, I can broil, I can grill. And therein gets into the big thing. While I do cook well indoors, and I am a good pots and pans guy, what I consider to be my expertise is outdoor cooking. I can grill. I don't call myself a pit master or any of those weird things. I don't have trophies because I don't enter competitions, but the reality is I know my way around a charcoal grill pretty well. And I specify charcoal. I have cooked on gas grills. I've never owned a gas grill myself. And I do own a turkey fryer, although I have not used it in almost 20 years now. But I can fry a turkey. I can fry chicken wings by by 5 and 6 pounds at a time. I can fry fish 5 and 6 pounds at a time if need be, and that's what the turkey fryer excels at, is frying large amounts of food in a hurry, or frying one turkey fairly quickly relative to roasting it in an oven. But my specialty is the charcoal grill, and this summer, because of a Facebook group I belong to, I've been taking the opportunity to do a lot of grilling and sharing that through Facebook, which has been a lot of fun, with us all being isolated. And I'm learning a lot, because I've learned a lot of new techniques and methods to do things. But my fascination with the grill starts, I watch that show Man Fire Food sometimes, and that's what it is. When I was a little boy, my grandfather had a old style southern barbecue pit, which means he had an area in his yard that was cleared of grass. It had a set of cinder blocks, essentially a square, with an opening in the front. And then the next row up was a piece of corrugated, not corrugated, but expanded steel. And then another row of cinder blocks. And then the next layer above that was a piece of tin he could use as a roof. And my grandfather smoked pork shoulders and half pigs on that little pit in his backyard like you would not believe. And when I was a kid, he did it the old way. He would get wood and he would sit out there and tend that fire. When I was a little boy, like if it was a special weekend at church and they needed to cook, my grandfather was one of the people that cooked the barbecue. Because you're cooking for a couple hundred people at that point, so you kind of got to spread that workload around. But my grandfather and my uncles, or sometimes his brothers, so my great uncles and my dad and my uncles, would sit out there around that pit, and they take lessons from my grandfather. Now that was grown man business, which is code for they were sitting out there drinking, and us boys weren't allowed out there with them. And they would sit out there all night tending that fire and have that pig ready for church the next morning. And then they would come to church. They'd get there late, but they'd be there with hot pork, so nobody was complaining. Unfortunately, because of the fact that we did not live nearby, and he got old and I got in high school and college and got busy, I did not get to learn from my grandfather directly. Luckily for me, my father, who was son-in-law to this particular grandfather, my father did sit out there and take many lessons from my grandfather and understood the fundamentals. Now the difference is, my father started working on a charcoal smoker, a backyard charcoal smoker, because we had a deck. So he put some pavers on the deck and set the smoker up on the deck. And my father would smoke shoulders there in his little backyard smoker. It's a store-bought, but it worked, and it was, the pork that would come off of that thing was incredible. And again, I did not take lessons from my dad necessarily, but understanding food and knowing how to cook and watching, I understood what he was doing. So when I became an adult, and not at first I would just grill, I would do hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff, but one day it just hit me. I'm going to learn how to smoke pork. I'm going to learn how to make classic pulled pork. And I started my process and I got it down. It took a couple tries. It wasn't perfect the first time like anything else, but after a while I got my technique and my methodology down. And I'm versatile. I generally, these days, I use a Weber kettle. I use an 18-inch Weber kettle. I have one at my house. I have one at my mother's house. My father, before he passed, had a Char-Broil side box smoker, and I've cooked on that. I'm the kind of guy that if I go to somebody's house, for an event, like I'm a member of a social organization, and sometimes we get together and have events during the summer, or we did before COVID. And I'm the type of guy that if I show up in the house and I see a grill and I feel like the person that says they're going to grill the food doesn't know what they're doing, I will miraculously volunteer to help out, and I will cook the food. And I've done that multiple times. I've done that at someone's home on their propane grill. I've done that at someone else's home on their charcoal grill. I've done it at a public park on the city-owned charcoal grills out there at the park. I've done it in college. I did it a sorority that I had some friends, some lady friends in a sorority, and they were having a hot dog sale at a university event. And me and one of my frat brothers, our job was actually to load the grill up on his pickup truck and deliver the grill. But when we got there, what we realized is that those ladies didn't really know how to grill, which one of the tip-offs for most people is if you put lighter fluid on the charcoal and light the charcoal and then try to immediately put the food on the grill, that's a tip-off that person doesn't know what they're doing. So my frat brother and I very politely stepped in and said, "Don't worry about it, we'll cook. We got it. Y'all sell the hot dogs, we'll cook them." And that's what we did. We made sure that the lighter fluid burned off, and then we got the hot dogs cooked, because hot dogs is one of the easiest things you can ever grill. But I'm that guy, and I try not to be an about it, but I'm that guy. If I come to your house and you're having a cookout, or if we meet at a public park somewhere and we're having a cookout, and I get the feeling that the people who say they're going to cook don't know what they're doing, I'll just step in and quote unquote help them out. And sometimes I'll even volunteer up front just to make sure that it's covered. But I'm also that guy that if I figure out that the person on the grill knows what they're doing, I'm going to come over and I'm going to talk to them, and we're going to sit over there and we're going to have grill talk. We're going to talk about techniques and methodology, and I'm not going to tell him when to flip the burgers or when to check the chicken, because if he's running it and he knows what he's doing, I'm going to let him do his thing. But at the same time, I'm going to pick his brain, see how much he knows, see if I can learn from him, or maybe he can learn from me. We're going to exchange thoughts and feelings on what it is to grill. Now, that's the fun thing about this Facebook group that I'm in, is I've learned a ton. One of the things that I've adopted this summer that's new to me is I was always a lighter fluid guy. There were a handful of times in my life where I lit a barbecue grill where I did not use lighter fluid. And usually if I didn't, it's because there simply wasn't any lighter fluid available. One time we had a cookout at work, and we went out to a lake and used the public grill there, and realized that even though we had charcoal, no one had any lighter fluid. So we had to generate the fire the old-fashioned way. We had some newspaper, and I went in the woods and got some kindling, and we managed to get the fire started, but it wasn't easy. Traditionally, I'm a lighter fluid guy. I've been using that since Dad taught me how to grill when I was about 15, 16. However, this summer I adopted the chimney starter, and I like the chimney starter. I like not using the lighter fluid. I like not having to wait on the lighter fluid. And don't get me wrong, there's still some time you have to spend letting the coals get hot. But the chimney starter, and I use it with newspaper, parchment paper, or butcher paper, depending on what I have handy at the moment. I like it. It works. There can be a little bit of ash, but if you get your percentage of paper right, the ash is minimized, and that mostly goes away when you dump the charcoals into the grill. But I've got the larger of the Weber chimney starters, the $19 one, and I like it. It's full disclosure, I'm a pyro. I like starting fires. I always have. Fortunately, I've been able to channel that into productive areas like fireplaces and campfires and barbecue grills. But I like nothing better than spraying a bunch of lighter fluid onto charcoal and having a huge fireball go up. I'm lucky I haven't singed myself yet, but I came close a couple times. But getting that big surge of fire out of the grill was a kick for me, but not worth it in terms of using a petroleum-based product and then trying to cook food, because you have to let all of that cook out of the coals, and it really is easier to just use newspaper or parchment paper or butcher paper, any of those kind of food grade paper wraps, or some newspaper, ignite that in the bottom of the chimney starter and get the coals good and hot that way. And they do get good and hot, let me tell you. And unlike with lighter fluid, where sometimes you get hot spots or areas where the coals are burning and others where they're not, the chimney starter, because of the way it funnels the heat upwards, all the coals get hot all at once, and that's great. I cooked my first brisket this summer, and I had never tried brisket before. But after watching this group, after seeing it done by a couple of guys and getting the idea for what the methodology is for cooking a brisket, I cooked a small piece of brisket and it was spectacular. And I was like, okay, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with myself. As I mentioned, I am a Weber kettle guy. I've been cooking on Webers for 20 years now. I'm on my second one. Yeah, I'm on my second. My first one lasted, they're warranted for 10 years. I think mine went about 12 or 13. And even then, when it failed, I could have bought replacement parts and repaired it, because basically what happened was the vent, the handle for the vent rusted and seized, because I lived in the Midwest, and we get those snowy winters, and I could have repaired it, but I got a deal on a slightly upgraded model, same size, but had some upgrades to it at the local hardware store. It was a floor display model, and I walked out with a brand new grill, and for a while there I had two. And then when I moved, I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave the rusty one behind. The Weber's a good grill. I won't say it's the greatest grill on earth, but it's a good grill, and the kettle is reliable and versatile. You can do a bunch of different things with it. I'm a pork guy because I am from the South, and my roots are from Tennessee, and therefore, slow smoking pulled pork, traditional pit barbecue is my roots. That's what my grandfather did. That's what my dad did. That's what I know how to do. I can do ribs. I don't do a lot of beef. If I'm cooking beef on a grill, usually it's a steak. So that's not barbecuing, that's grilling, which that's a whole, we're not going to get into semantics because this isn't a food channel, but there is a distinct difference in cooking methodology between grilling and barbecuing. I can do both. And like I say, if I'm cooking beef, most likely I am grilling a steak, and I do that exceedingly well. But I also do ribs, I do pork shoulders. I do not do whole pigs or half pigs, simply because I do not have a grill that size, and as a single man, there's no need for me to ever eat that much meat or cook that much meat in one setting. The biggest thing I will do is a pork picnic shoulder, which is, for lack of a better term, it's the upper half of the pig's front leg, and a big one there would be, 12, 13 pounds, although the ones I do are normally 6, 7 pounds, just because, again, I'm single, so unless I know I'm cooking for a bunch of people, I'm going to cook the smallest shoulder I can find that still has a bone in it, and that's important to me. I like the bone-in shoulders with the skin on them, and there's reasons for that. But lately I've gotten into experimenting with different things, like smoking bratwursts, smoking bratwursts over applewood, smoking chickens on the rotisserie, smoking Cornish hens, grilling vegetables, that's a new thing for me, relatively. For me, the grill was always a meat thing, but I've learned to grill vegetables very well. I haven't done pineapple in and of itself, and I know a lot of people that grill pineapple slices, and they're incredible. They're incredibly sweet and delicious. I generally only grill pineapple if it's part of a kebab, which I do periodically with ribeye and shrimp. So I do like a surf and turf kebab. It's kind of a sweet and sour. I do green peppers, green bell pepper, red bell pepper, tomatoes, pineapple, ribeye steak, and raw shrimp. And that's a nice kebab, let me tell you. But I do the rotisserie chickens. I do have a rotisserie attachment for my 18-inch Weber, and that's a lot of fun. I do two-zone methodology where I have half, I only have charcoal and half the grill, so I have a really hot fire zone. This is good for steaks. You can sear the steak on the outside, and then if somebody wants their steak, more than just blood rare pink in the middle, then I can move it over to the cool side of the grill, put the lid back on it, and let it cook a little more if they want it cooked all the way through, but it doesn't burn, it doesn't turn into shoe leather. I do indirect cooking when I'm smoking on the Weber, which is the food is on the opposite side that the charcoal is on, and I have the grill that has the grates that lift up so I can continue to add charcoal. A lot of times when I'm smoking, I do a mixture of charcoal and wood chunks, and what I can do to keep the fire going all day is I can continue to add charcoal and wood chunks as the old pieces cook out and fall through the ash grate. I have cast iron skillets, and I will occasionally cook in the cast iron skillet on the grill. That works really good for fajita vegetables, And sometimes I do that for fish. If it's a flaky fish that I'm worried about falling through because I don't have a fish basket, I should probably just buy a fish basket, but that's a separate issue. I enjoy cooking. I really enjoy grilling. I enjoy this time of year when it's really hot. I get up early in the morning and I get my grill lit at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I do my cooking and I'm back indoors by 9, especially because I'm working from home, so I can get back inside early, get on the computer, and do my work that I need to do for the day. There's a lot you can do in terms of grilling, and again, like I say, I'm still learning. I'm learning as I go. Brisket, I did. The other day I did a Philly cheesesteak where I did my steak and my peppers in the skillet on the grill. I smoke fish occasionally. Like I say, I've been doing the smoked brats, and I did a brisket. I'm going to do another brisket because that's a technique. You got to practice these things to get good at them, and I'm looking forward to doing my next piece of brisket. But I'm always looking for a new challenge, something new. And I really enjoy being part of this grilling Facebook group because it gives me an opportunity to learn from people. And we share, the guys in this group, we do share a lot of information with one another, and we pick fun. The charcoal guys pick fun of the pellet guys. The pellet guys pick fun of the propane guys. One day I put a picture of my George Foreman on there, and that got a lot of laughs. But there's something elemental about cooking with real fire and wood. And like I said, I am primarily a charcoal guy, but I do sometimes use wood chunks. I do not cook entirely on wood because there can be some difficulty in regulating the heat of your fire when you're burning chunks of wood because the wood is different sizes. But I am very adept at building fires. That's a skill my father taught me. My father was a Boy Scout, and apparently he learned how to build fires really well. He taught me how to build fires. I can build a fireplace fire. I can build a campfire fire. I can build a barbecue grill fire. Just whatever kind of fire you need, I can get a fire going. And I'm also, I'm actually a trained, certified fire investigator, oddly enough, although my membership's about to expire here pretty soon. That was a work thing. And, so not only can I start a fire, but I can also tell you how that fire was started. But I really enjoy grilling. I enjoy smoking foods. I hope in the future to eventually build a permanent pit, a cinder block and steel pit like my grandfather had. I won't build mine quite so low to the ground, but I'm looking forward to doing that, and maybe the day when I can do a whole pig or a half pig and have a true legit old style pig picking instead of chopping it up myself by hand, where we can just come in and literally pull the pork apart and people can just come in and get whatever piece they want. You got rib bones falling out, and you got leg bones falling out. I want to get to the point where I can do that. But I hope you've enjoyed this little diversion from the usual stuff. And as always, if you're a fan of my content, like, share, and subscribe, and check back with my channel periodically, as I'm going to be releasing some new content in between my regular scheduled bi-monthly episode releases. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.